In my latest video, I pointed out that it is important to understand the difference between what is going on and that it is going on. That video got a comment where I was asked to elaborate on what the difference is. This will be my answer. Most people, they have a hard time accepting what is happening. And the reason for this is that what is happening is tied into and does trigger your sense-making and your emotional system. This is why I emphasize the importance of shifting to accepting that it is happening. And in this video I will explain why. So, okay, what do I mean when I say what is happening? Well, what is happening is not actually what is happening. And for most people that comes as a surprise. You see, what is happening is a result of interpretations. And that means that to you, what is happening, that is a result of your interpretations. In other words, it has to do with your ongoing internal dialogue. Whether you know it or not, within you, you constantly judge everything you encounter. And from that judging, you build a worldview. And it is this worldview that I call what is happening. It is simply you who tries to make sense of everything. And when you reach a point where you feel that you have figured out what is going on, this sensation is what I refer to as what is happening. It is simply your conceptual idea about what is happening. So why is it important to be able to understand the difference between what is happening and that it is happening? Well, most people are preoccupied with what is happening, failing to understand that what is happening is always an interpretation. What is happening is an opinion. And your idea about what is happening is never what is happening. What is happening is a viewpoint. It is a perspective. But at the same time, what is happening is triggering all of your biases. And as I mentioned before, what is happening is directly wired to your emotional system. Now, pair that with today's media stream. You are constantly bombarded with news from the entire world. Not only news from regular news companies, but also news as hearsay from an endless number of individuals delivered through social media platforms. As long as you try to make sense of every single bit of information, you have to run it through your sense-making mechanism. That is, you have to find out how this particular piece of information fits into your existing worldview. This sense-making happens for most people without any direct awareness of it. It is sort of mechanical. Something happens somewhere, and you get exposed to it as information. And then your subconscious computes the information, and it categorizes it according to your present worldview. Back in the days where we lived in small tribes, this was not a problem. But nowadays you are being bombarded with detailed information about what happens on the other side of the globe. And it wears you down. This constant flow of news, I typically refer to it as nonsense. This constant flow of nonsense, it drains you of your energy. It's absurd. Yes, but you may argue that it is a part of the social rule to stay informed and to have an opinion. Well, go ahead, my friend. If you like, play by these rules. But ask yourself, whose rules are they? And are they actual rules? What I'm saying is that as long as you try to interpret everything you are exposed to, as long as that is happening, you are draining your energy by trying to make sense of what is happening. Mind you, if you do come to a conclusion about what is happening, it is not over then, because you will encounter an endless array of other people who think that what is happening is quite different from what you think is happening. And when that happens, you will have to defend your version of what is happening. Another thing is, what if your interpretation of what is happening is challenging your values? And at the same time, you cannot do anything about it. That will result in emotional turmoil. That will result in depression, anger, frustration. So I hope that you are able to see that your interpretation of what is happening quite often is an obstacle to your inner peace, to your happiness. Please do remember that what is happening is always an interpretation. What is happening is an opinion. What is happening triggers all of your biases. What is happening is directly wired to your emotional system. And this one is often difficult to get. What is happening is never what is happening. What is happening is a viewpoint, a perspective. It is absolutely okay to build an idea about what is happening. But I suggest that you always keep in mind that it is nothing but an idea, a viewpoint. So hold it lightly. Okay, that was about what is happening. Let's take a look at that it is happening. On the other hand, that it is happening is not a viewpoint. It is a finding. It is a conclusion. It is an acknowledgement of how this present moment unfolds. This is why I emphasize the difference between what is happening and that it is happening. If you want peace and happiness, it is important to grasp the difference and then implement this wisdom in your life. By the same token, I highly recommend you stop watching, or at least downsize your time consumptions on news channel and social media. Be mindful about where your inputs come from. That is important. Okay. To end with, I will give you a practical example. What if I were to ask you to accept that there is a war going on, harming thousands of innocent people? You would have a hard time doing that. So what happens is that you mentally pushes against it. And this internal battle, it brings you sorrow and sadness. Instead, Or I should say, ask yourself, you're pushing against the fact that there is a war going on. Does that change anything? Does that change anything besides you feeling shitty about it? So your interpretation, there is a war going on and it shouldn't be, that interpretation does not change anything, does it? Again, that is besides your feeling shitty about it. It drains you of your happiness, your ability to do something positive in the environment that you are currently surrounded by. And in that way, your interpretation, there is a war going on and it shouldn't be, that interpretation becomes a double tragedy. There is a war going on and it shouldn't be, is your perspective. And that perspective becomes what is going on to you. My suggestion is that you let go of that. And instead, you surrender into the fact that it is going on. The energy that is released from this shift, you can instead put into something creative or something truly helpful in your community. So let go of what is going on and instead accept that it is going on. If you do that, you will notice that the release of tension is immediate. I sincerely hope that this makes sense to you. Oftentimes we need to hear this again and again before we grasped it. As always, I encourage you to stay patient with yourself. Stay patient with yourself. And take care, my friend. Thank you for listening.